All right, we are live. Good morning, y'all. My name is Dustin Jones. This is the PT on Ice Daily Show. It's Wednesday, so that means it's Jerry on Ice, where we talk about all things older adults. We're live on Facebook right now. We're live on Instagram, and you all maybe listen on the podcast as well. So 8:30 every morning, we're hopping on Facebook or Instagram if y'all want to catch the video. So today we're going to talk about a simple yet surprising way to assess levels of independence. This is a question that we are constantly asking, and something that we're constantly discussing in modern management of the older adult is how do we assess people's level of function, their level of independence. A thorough Jerry PT exam is something that we harp on a good bit in the course, and that can really give you a glimpse into how people are performing. But me as a home health clinician, I have a distinct advantage that I am actually in people's homes. I see what their day-to-day life is like, some of their ADLs or IADLs, how they're actually performing them in the context of the place that they usually spend their time. But for you all in the outpatient world, you don't have that luxury, and that can be challenging. That presents several issues for you. So I want to talk about how can we assess level of independence, and show y'all a little trick of the trade in the Jerry world that you can use. But all that to say, we do want to emphasize that evaluation. We want to get good data. We want to use our functional measures. We want to observe how people are moving, how they're performing their different transfers. That is very valuable information that's ultimately going to help inform kind of your triage list of what you need to address, and ultimately, influence your interventions. But the big thing with the eval too is we want to identify those that are at risk. That's a big thing in working with older adults, is identifying people who are on the cusp of potentially losing their functional independence, or maybe those that are 1RM living, or where their daily tasks are at or near or above their max capacity or 1 rep max. We can do a great job of capturing people that are in those vulnerable situations, so we can really target our resources to really kind of move the needle forward and make a big change in their lives and their quality of life very quickly. So a good Jerry PT eval and screening is going to really achieve that. However, it still brings its challenges. We perform our tests, but they may not necessarily match reality, especially for you all in the outpatient setting, which is of particular concern. I mentioned this study. Good morning, y'all. I mentioned this study a couple weeks ago, where they took an accelerometer. So this is a group of older adults. They took an accelerometer like you'd find in your phone, and they tape it to basically right in the middle of the low back. And what they did is they performed single task ambulation in a lab, and they performed dual task ambulation in a lab. So where they were performing, some type of cognitive or motor task on top of them already ambulating. They got those measurements. They saw the characteristics of that gait pattern, kind of how they were moving, what they were doing, and then they kept that accelerometer on there, and then they sent them home and measured those same gait characteristics. And what they found after, I think it was a 6-week period of time, they found that when people were walking in their home, over 55% of their ambulation was worse than the in-lab dual tasking. So I'll say it again, over 55% of people's ambulation in their own environment when no one's watching, just the accelerometer, that gait pattern was worse than when they were in the lab performing dual tasking, which we thought is a very difficult or challenging situation. So that study, and there's several others that are starting to look at the differences between how people actually perform in the real world and how they perform on these functional measures when they're in front of us in the clinic. They're usually performing at their best. They're usually dressed up. It's kind of the highlight of their week when they come to see us for most folks. They may be performing at a little bit above of what they would normally do in their home. And so that really, makes us think, are we actually are we capturing reality with a lot of these patients when we perform our assessments? And that can be very challenging, especially for you all that are in outpatient. For me in home health, I get a better idea. I'm in their context. I'm where they are. But I wanted to share something that this is a classic geriatrician trick of the trade, but I wanted to bring this up because I just found this very interesting. So Atul Gawande, Being Mortal. We've mentioned this book dozens of times on this podcast. I reference Atul Gawande in our ageism unit in Modern Management of the Older Adult. I've never read the book. He's been on several podcasts and said several pretty amazing things. I didn't feel like I need to read the book, but Christina Previtt nudged me to actually read the full book. So I'm reading the book. You're welcome, Christina. But I want to read an excerpt that I think will be very helpful for a lot of the outpatient folk and for me too in home health. But Atul Gawande, so he's a practicing surgeon. I don't know if he's practicing anymore, but he's written the Checklist Manifesto. He's written Being Mortal. He is a thought leader in the healthcare space and how we care for people, in particular older adults. And in this excerpt, he's talking about where he was shadowing a geriatrician. So this is early on in his training. So a geriatrician's is doing an initial consult. So this is Atul Gawande speaking. I tried to think what could be accomplished in this particular visit. She, the patient, was in good condition for her age, but she faced everything from advanced arthritis and incontinence to what might be metastatic colon cancer. It seemed to me that with just a 40-minute visit, Blue Doe, which was the geriatrician, needed to triage by zeroing in on either the most potentially life-threatening problem, which is a possible metastasis, or the problem that bothered her the most, the back pain. That's something that we come across all the time, don't we? But this was evidently not what he thought. He asked almost nothing about either issue. Instead, he spent much of the exam looking at her feet. Is that really necessary? The patient asked when he instructed her to take off her shoes and socks. Yes, he said. After she left, he told me, you must always examine the feet. He described a bow-tied gentleman who seemed dapper and fit until his feet revealed the truth. He couldn't bend down to reach them, and they turned out not to have been cleaned in weeks, suggesting neglect and real danger. The feet don't lie. That's the secret. I think that's a simple solution. Assess the feet. Have people take off their shoes. Have people take off their socks. I know that may sound a little disgusting for some of y'all. Good morning, Sarah, that may not do a regular foot assessment. But in particular with older adults, assessing the foot, even if they come to you with their low back pain, which you definitely want to address, and you want them to know that you're going to address that, and you want to perform those screens that we talk about in some of those functional measures to capture people at risk. But simply observing the feet can be that window into actually how they're performing at home and their level of functional independence. If someone is unable to bend over to clean their feet, to trim their toenails, that can tell you a lot of what they're probably not able to do in their home. And so that can put them at risk of continuing to be independent in their living space. The feet don't lie. The feet will tell the truth. And I've seen this a lot in my patients. The feet will be the sign that gives it away of how they're actually performing. But also I have the luxury where I can go and I can have the person give me a tour of their home. And there's usually one or two rooms that are just an absolute disaster, where people are hiding all the things that they have not been able to do for a long time, whether that's laundry that they let pile up because they can't pick it up, put it in the dishwasher, or in the dryer, things of that nature. So these are glimpses that we can really gather some good information on how people are actually performing in the real world. Because if you are honest with yourself, when you are asking people these questions of how you're doing, how is it when you do this ADL or this IADL, they may not be telling the truth. Their full-time job is to try and withhold from people, especially healthcare professionals, their functional decline. They want everyone to know that they're doing just fine, that things have been the way they've always been, and they're not at risk for any type of decline. And it's your job as a clinician to dive deeper, perform your screens that we talk about, perform those functional measures, but really observe the patient in their environment, hopefully, if you have that luxury, to see how they're doing. So you can have them take their shoes off. That'll give you a glimpse. And for me, the home health clinician, I can walk around their house and get a good idea. Because our patients want to stay in their home, and we want to help them stay in their home. We want them to be as independent as long as possible. And if you are able to stratify, the risk of that patient, of them losing their functional independence, then you can allocate your resources to really maybe front-loading visits, for example, really hammering some of that, that string training or that balance training or whatever it is they need to really improve well. Or you can make an appropriate referral to maybe a social worker, maybe get occupational therapy involved, maybe see what type of community resources are out there to help that person stay in their home longer. So that's all I got. I wanted to share that quote with you all. I thought it was really interesting, and it is a classic geriatrician move. I mean, anytime a patient is going to see a geriatrician, they're going to have them take their socks and shoes off, regardless of the chief complaint. And I think we can do that too, to get a good idea of how people are doing. So, all right, so you all have a lovely Wednesday. I do want to mention Modern Management of the Older Adult, the online cohort, 8 weeks, is starting up June 9th. So this Sunday, Christine and I are very excited about this cohort. We're making a few tweaks to things and how we order and just make sure the flow is optimal with the course. So we're really excited about that. We're also going to be in Asheville, North Carolina, June 23rd, that weekend, around there. So we're pretty excited about that. And I know there's lots of other courses going on. Most of them are full, unfortunately for you all that missed the boat. But if you want to make sure that you stay on top of what courses are coming to your area or when the online cohorts are coming out, the best way to do that is just to go to ptonice.com, go to the bottom of the page, type in your name, type in your email, and you're going to get on our Hump Day Hustling email list. And what that is, every Wednesday, so Jeff's probably going to be sending it out right about now, you're going to get 5 helpful links of either research articles, blog posts, or social media posts or videos that we found helpful as clinicians. This is from all the different clinicians within ICE. And Jeff kind of curates that, puts that together, trims out the bacon fat, and sends it to you all. So it's a very potent and helpful email. But then at the bottom of that email, he has a list of all the upcoming courses, so you'll stay up to date with that. So Hump Day Hustling, ptonice.com, go to the bottom, sign up, and you'll be good to go. All right. Y'all have a good one. I'll talk with y'all in a couple of weeks. See you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.